Cloaked in the shadows.
Okay, Amanda, what's going on today?
We're doing Cloaked in the Shadows.
Yeah. Now, what is Cloaked in the Shadows?
It's a podcast about paranormal, strange, unexplained, just anything out of the
And the
ordinary.
downright weird, as
Yeah.
I always say.
Yeah,
So,
I like the downright
uh,
right weird.
now we've got a guest with us in this section of the show, and this is a lovely lady. Actually, we met originally hmm, November,
Yeah.
November last year, I believe it was. And she might tell me otherwise in this, but we've got the fantastic Alice Godliman with us. Alice is a fantastic poet in her own right, and she's going to come in on Spoken Label not long after this goes live, anyway. But what I want to talk to Alice about today, first of all, was you, Alice, wasn't it? About your, she was interested in witchcraft. So tell us, obviously, give us a quick introduction to yourself, first of all, then, and tell us basically where this came from.
Yeah, so I'm Alice. I'm a poet, but I call myself a witch. Sometimes I feel a bit awkward calling myself a witch. It feels like a label you really have to earn. But I've just always been interested in, I like the way you put it, the downright weird, the paranormal. And sometimes I think if something's kind of just calling out to you, you've sort of just got to follow it and see what happens. So I was a weird kid who always like read about witch burnings and stuff like that. So from being small, I've always been really interested in it. And then as I got a bit older, I did my own research and started buying tarot cards and seeing where it all led me, I suppose.
Cool. Okay, then, so obviously, I don't want to go too much about your poetry because this really gets discussed to people, clever people know it's Spoken Label more than. But obviously, like, it runs, I know you say it runs hand in hand, but people will see if you look at your debut collection, for example, they would notice, obviously, there is the poems in that book are done in spell form. So tell us about then how you actually do your spells and how it's created.
So I think my definition of a spell, some people would almost certainly disagree with me, and I think that's absolutely fine. But I think a big part of magic is just comes from listening to yourself, like talking to that little voice inside of you, your subconscious, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. And that's actually a really difficult voice to listen to. It gets drowned out in the world. And if you're busy and if you're not taking the time to be quiet. So I sort of use spells and witchcraft as a way to just get everything to shut up so you can listen to yourself and pay attention to your own intuition and what it's telling you, because it's actually really powerful. So sometimes doing a spell is sitting down and writing a poem. Sometimes it's sitting down and doing a tarot reading for yourself to be like, what actually do I feel about this thing that's happening right now? And sometimes it's just sitting in silence for 5 minutes to go, and just think about how it is that you feel. So for me, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would really disagree with me and say like, no, magic is getting in touch with a higher power. But I think that higher power is maybe the thing that's talking to you that you need to listen to. But for me, it's all about listening to yourself.
Cool. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, like, how has being a witch helped you?
In life,
Yeah.
yeah, I would never say like, oh, I've done magic and it's given me my dream life. I think that can be a really dangerous way of thinking. But it's definitely helped me mentally to just feel more myself, feel I can go for things that maybe I wouldn't have done. Like the book, I think if I hadn't have been able to have that time to listen to myself, I would never have even thought about sending it anywhere. I think it's being a witch has definitely given me the confidence to just feel like the stuff I do is worth anything, I suppose.
Yeah, now my turn now, of course, now. So, tell us about them because in your book, obviously in relation to your book, and this will be a more Spoken Label anyway. But in your book itself, you list the ingredients, don't you? Now, where do you know you got the ingredients from?
So sometimes the poem comes before the ingredients do. Sometimes just I'm writing a poem, I'm writing a spell, and then I look at it and it's drawing out those kind of key images, and sometimes the ingredients come first. If you've read the book, or if you haven't, I'll tell you, some of them are really esoteric, metaphorical things that you can't actually get. It's not like a physical object. Some of them are a bit, I think it's like silence and those sorts of things. So it's, I hope, quite obvious that it's not supposed to be an actual list of instructions of something you should go and do, because some of them that would be quite dangerous. There's definitely a poem in there about cutting out your organs, which is actually a much more positive poem than I've made it sound. But yeah, I think I kind of wanted to harken back to that old-fashioned witchcraft idea of like a bubbling cauldron. And I also think it is worth thinking about the things that matter, and how is it any different to make sure that you've got the things that you need to build a life that you want, versus making sure you've got the things that you need to put them in a cauldron and do a spell. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I find that really interesting.
Yeah, so I said, like, it's, you said you've been doing it, you've started since you were a child, really, haven't you? So yeah, have you found that your approach changed to this since you first started doing this?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was a child, I was always just, I would never have thought to call myself a witch or anything like that, or even to think about doing magic. It was just something I was really interested in and never stopped. I feel like kids often have weird interests, and then they kind of grow up a bit and are like, yeah, I was a 7-year-old who was obsessed with dinosaurs, and now I'm an adult who's not. And I just never grew out of this interest. And when I was younger, it was like, okay, yeah, I might really think that witchcraft is cool, but I can't actually do anything about it because there's no internet for me to do any research. You know, my mum might look at me a bit weird if I say, hey, I want to buy a spell book. Whereas now it's like, I can go and buy a set of tarot cards, or like 10, which is probably how many I have now. And I can spend the time to do the research and learn how to do it properly.
Cool. No, cool. Amanda, is there any other questions you'd like to ask? Yeah, last question for me then, Alice, in this one is, where do you anticipate your spells going next in, say, the next few years? Do you have any ideas what direction you think this is going to lead you to?
I have no idea. I think I'm trying to sort of make sure I'm being really respectful with it, because I think it's quite easy for people who are interested in witchcraft and spirituality and those kinds of things to kind of just stomp all over other people's traditions and not be careful. And I think it's quite important to make sure you're not doing that. So, which is why I quite like to move quite slowly and make sure I am doing the research and not getting involved in any closed practices that I'm going to upset other people by getting involved in. Because there's so many practices that are open that people are really happy for you to get involved in, that it's silly to go and do the things that are going to upset people. And I think if you're putting bad energy out there into the world by going, I don't care what you think, I'm going to go and do it anyway, then you're obviously going to get that coming back to you. So it's definitely, I want to do some more research and make sure I'm doing things properly, and do a bit of research into what's like traditional folk practices from this part of the world. People so often people appropriate other cultures' ideas because they think they're really cool, but actually like folk British, especially folk Northern traditions are so rich.
Same here in that one. I'm really interested in that sort of stuff, so
yeah, and it's quite hard to find out about it, I feel like, sometimes, which is probably why it's really easy to steal all of other people's stuff, because there's more information out there. But I'd much rather find out about like what's native to this land, because there's quite a lot of cool stuff before some things kind of got painted over by Christianity. We had a lot of really diverse traditions.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a massive book at the moment, actually. I've book I bought fairly recently, on the Dark Ages, and you look back at those times, there's a lot we don't know. It just wasn't wrote down as much.
Yeah, definitely.
That was
I completely agree.
Anyway, so, well, unless Amanda's got something I don't know which she wants to ask you.
No.
Yeah, what we'll then do, Alice, if people want to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go?
Probably my Instagram more than anywhere else. I try and have other social medias, but I'm pretty rubbish at them. Instagram's the only one I'm any good at, which is at Alice Godliman. So it's just my name, one word. There's where you can find out about my book and what I'm doing. If you want to buy my book, that would be great. And you can do it at benkypublishing.co.uk. Just a little shout out to them that they publish a bunch of great books anyway. So go have a look.
Yeah, definitely do it. So, okay, well, that's it from Cloaked in the Shadows. We'll see you all. And thanks again, Alice.
Bye,
see you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cloaked in the Shadows.
Thanks again, Alice, for my interesting chat about your poems and how you do your witches on it before. It was fascinating, Amanda, that really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've always had an interest in witchcraft.
Yeah, but have you ever seen it done like that before? It was...
Well, it's a different way of doing it.
Yeah, it's certainly, honest. If you play back the interview bit we just played a few moments ago, it really made me look at things in a very different way, actually, don't you? I think that's what we're trying to do as a podcast, really, aren't we?
Yeah, that's one way to do anything at the end of the time.
Yeah, they always say there's more than one way to skin a cat, but please don't do that, right? Poor cat indeed. Now, we're on to the news section now, part 2 of Cloaked in the Shadows. We've both got 3 parts of news each this month. So, would you like me to go first, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay, first one is, this came on the Mail, actually, the other week, actually, where archaeologists have discovered a 17th century so-called Polish vampire buried with a sickle across its neck, which is basically meant to prevent it coming back to life.
Okay. Well, it's worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked, that one. So, but the Daily Mail reported on it, and it's quite interesting. So I've got pictures, obviously, I can show Amanda. Obviously, we can't do it through the pictures for whatever reason. But what they did was, in the Mail said, the stickle was not laid flat, placed on the neck in such a way if the deceased had tried getting up, likely the head would have been cut off or injured. But it was something apparently was actually done a lot in the 14th and the 17th century in some parts of Eastern Europe. Like, it must have been quite superstitious at the time, really. Well, that's why Rob said it was done to prevent the dead woman from coming back to life. And this case here was talked about by Professor, my Polish is hopeless, Professor Poloski, we'll call him, and he was heading up the historical dig that led to the discovery of the skeleton of Amanda. And he described it as the sickle was not laid flat, placed in the neck, obviously, like I said before, if the deceased had tried getting up. But the remains were discovered, and my Polish is hopeful here, in the village of Pen near Ostomeko in Poland. And they reckon it was a young woman buried in the 17th century, and there was talk of traces of silk cap on the head, which suggested obviously she's from a higher class status. And the actual, obviously Polski said, such a discovery, especially here in Poland, is astonishing, especially now, centuries later. Now, obviously we can't show you the pictures on this on our audio podcast, but I can show them Amanda. Let's see what Amanda thinks of it. Amanda, you tell me what you think of that.
It's very hard to make out, to be honest, because of all albums.
You can see if you look at it there, they've actually set it all apart. The body's there, it's just a skeleton. But there's like this black thing on the neck, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's very but the body's rotted. And a bit of the silk cap on top of it, but like the actual thing on the neck, it made you wonder, how did she die? Or was she even put to death at the time? Because we had all the cases of the Pendle witches, didn't we, and stuff like that. And that makes you wonder whether that poor woman or poor girl had done some wrong thing that some men didn't like, and they did that to her. But that really is unexplained, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't do that to me when I die.
No, what do you reckon? Is it quite freaking? I've never seen that done.
Yeah, but I think back in those days as well, we didn't have the medical advancements they've got today. So she might have died and just might not have understood why. Just thought, oh, she'll come back as a vampire. Let's stop her from doing that.
Yeah.
And not actually understood what the real cause was.
Yeah, I think that's very likely the case. But no, it's really a mystery about it. It's an interesting one. So, okay, Amanda.
Okay, so I want to talk about reincarnation.
I nearly picked an article about reincarnation actually today, but
I hope it's not the same one that I was looking at.
probably not good.
This was an article on Tech 24 News. I don't know how old the girl is now because it doesn't go that far. But when she lives in India, and when she was a toddler, she started having memories of another life and remembering other people from that life and speaking in another language, which at that age you wouldn't really be bilingual, would you?
No.
You'd really learn the first language at that age.
Yeah, well, they do. I've read it before, and they say, don't they, like, tell me if you agree with this theory in this. It's like, if you've got any sort of memories of a past life, it's when because your brain's not been fully programmed in this life, has it? So
Yeah,
you can't
be
believe it's gone.
closer to that last life as well. The more older you get, the further away you get from it. But her parents put it down to a wild imagination at first. But then the memories in the different languages that she spoke as a toddler weren't so easy to explain. And this included talking about a woman who had died 9 years before the girl was born, who she could have no knowledge of, unless maybe she has lived before. And when the girl was 11, her family and the woman's family met up and she was able to tell them things about the deceased woman that many of the family members had forgotten about. But on the other side of it, there were some details that didn't match up.
Interesting. It's obviously, in this case, it's worth talking about your own experiences because you did
I did the self-progression. I got a CD and it teaches you how to do like the self-progression and takes you through the steps. And the first time I saw myself as a German woman, and I escaped and went to England, and then eventually died as an old woman.
You reckoned in the 70s, didn't you?
Yeah, I died in the 70s.
No, I was obviously without aging yourself, Amanda. Well, that is worth.
21, I'll have,
No, but it's like that. You were born, weren't you, yourself? What? Probably 5, 6, 7 years later, probably, weren't? Which is there's a parallel between that and this here.
Yeah. But the thing that for me is I tried it a second time and started seeing overlapping memories of a different life that wouldn't have made sense. But then later I read about like having like parallel souls where your soul is actually in more than one body at a time. So it's actually possible to live multiple lives at the same time, just to confuse things a little bit.
We need to. Can we do some research on the next episode? I'd like.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear more about that from you because it's something I've not come across before, and I'd like to know. So, okay. Zombie viruses. There has been a case recently, and this is another thing that has just come up as well. Right. Okay. Yeah. Uncovered in Siberia at the beginning of this year. There was obviously with global warming itself happening, this one came up on Yahoo News actually. I found it really interesting, where they were talking a lot about global warming takes hold, vast swaths of permafrost are melting, releasing material that has been trapped for thousands of years. And this is including like things like microbes that have been dormant for hundreds of millennia. What do you think about that first of all?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think it's going to be like something as in Walking Dead.
No, it's not. It's not. It's just, I think this is just crap reporting. Yeah, I do. And what they're on about here is scientists are refusing to revive a number of zombie viruses released from the Siberian permafrost, including one that's been reckoned is 50,000 years old. But, and this was interesting, that the outbreak, I don't know where they get the information on this, the outbreak killed these six sick people. The Soviet authorities have denied the incident ever happened. Well, they probably won't remember it from 50,000 years ago.
No, I don't remember it 50,000 years ago.
But it's interesting now, like, Russian researchers are actually now purposely unearthing bodies of long-dead woolly mammoths in an attempt to reawaken these Stone Age viruses, which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, you think, it's like at the moment, obviously, as a world really, we're just coming out of COVID. And people are doing studies like this, and you wonder what the heck they're going to react to send around the world next if they're not careful. That's why. But this project has been carried out by Russia's State of Research Center for Biotechnology, known as Vector. and aims to extract cellular material containing viruses that kill these frozen animals. As they're looking at what wipes out a race and stuff like that. I think it's interesting, but it's quite rightly is cause concern.
Massive things like that.
Yeah, I do as well. I think it's very, very, very worrying, Joshua. As I said, but it's unfortunately, as scientists, it's one that we'll always be trying to do, aren't they? But we've got to be dead damn careful with it.
Yeah.
So, that's our warning for the episode.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about dinosaur sightings.
Oh, wait. You're not going on the bear again, are you?
Baileys.
Oh, Bailey's. Okay.
So they're sponsored by Baileys.
Yeah. Please send loads over to Amanda, okay?
No, I came across a National Geographic video on YouTube talking about strange animal and alien sightings, and one of these was a dinosaur sighting. So it prompted me to try and find like a specific article where there was a picture that you could actually say, yeah, that's a dinosaur, and it was taken a day and it's not a Photoshop. And I came across loads of supposed dinosaur sightings around the world with pictures and footage. But it's a bit like the Loch Ness Monster, to be honest, in the way that you never get a clear picture of it. And there's one, for example, that's been caught on a security camera at people's homes. And it shows something moving across the yard, but it's moving so fast. It's the shape of a small T-Rex, but you can't really tell what it is. And considering it's a home security camera, you'd think it'd be a lot clearer since it's there to actually take footage of intruders so that you would use it to find the intruder afterwards, but yet you can't see what it is on the camera.
Yeah, good point. Good point with that. It does, it's like it. Do you actually believe Bigfoot exists in America?
I know there's been a lot of sightings.
Yeah.
Of something.
Yeah, they had a big one, didn't we? It was in the 70s, was it Banner? Was it Russell Bannister? I forgot, I might be your names mixed up. He admitted it 20 years later it's fake. But then you got that Yeti in the Himalayas, and that one I actually believe.
Yeah. I did see a really clear video of some birds that looked like the sort of, I don't know the exact dinosaur, because I don't know about that much about the dinosaur breeds. But they did look like some of the flying ones from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But I think that's just sort of, they are birds that do look a bit dinosaur-like.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? I think as a world there is things out there that would know us and avoid us.
If this had been wiped out, you'd be really careful about getting sighted, wouldn't you? Because you'd be thinking, well, I don't want to die like my ancestors did all those years ago.
Yeah, you get like I said with the Yeti and possibly Bigfoot, if Bigfoot exists even. There is meant to be a version of Bigfoot or the Yeti in Australia, apparently there is, I really believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you believe...
As well as like Chris Hemsworth.
Calm down. Sorry, Chris, you want to come on this programme as a guest, you're welcome. Anyway. No, but like it does make you wonder what is out there we don't know about now. What's hiding from us?
And I can kind of understand sometimes when people are taking unclear pictures, because if you did see what you think's a dinosaur, you're not going to get overly close to take a picture of it, are you?
No. So anyway, interesting. Okay, bit more close back to technology, not the version of my part of the news today. And I've got this highlighted there so Amanda can see. There's been a big boost in technology and robots again, and you know how much I like talking about robot news. And one I've just read the other day was a robot snake looks like it's in the process been developed and it could well be used in cancer surgery in 10 years' time.
Okay, so how does it work?
Show you then, right? Okay, this is it's a robot that imitates the flexibility of a snake for using cancer surgery in 10 years, experts say. It's called Cobra.
Okay.
It has previously been used in jet engineering and nuclear plants, and the University of Nottingham has developed the robot and secured funding to make the robot the first of its kind in the UK. The professor has done this and said, we have started early tests to see the robot can perform surgical procedures. And they collaborated with Rolls-Royce. And what they're saying is, while such medical procedures which are currently performed with endoscopic tools, Cobra could offer more dexterity, accuracy, and high-definition views for surgical teams. So, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, well, I've seen one too many horror films, and I'm not going to scare people by saying what I'm thinking, but I've got very sort of scary thoughts in my head now for robot going in like a joy, operating on you.
You do, unfortunately. It's going to be nature of the beast, actually. We've been more brainwashed into Terminator films, etc. But it's interesting, like the professor was directing the TV. Snakes, by definition, are slender in it, very maneuverable. I use a simple joystick. So up to now, what we've done as technologies is get into engines. We've been contacted by some surgeons at Leicester Hospital to translate this technology to medical fields.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting news.
Yeah.
But
I would probably wait until it had been used successfully on a lot of people before I said, yeah, I can use it on me.
Yeah, I know, it's understandable. I think we're of that generation still, aren't we? So if it gets 10 years down, you don't know the way the world's going at the moment. So listen, but it's interesting news anyway. So
yeah.
Amanda.
Okay,
to wrap up with.
Finish off. It's not news so much, it's just a little story about Manchester Cathedral, which is on Victoria Street in Manchester City Centre.
Yes.
And it's got a long history of paranormal occurrences, including a man who saw his sister thinking she had come to Manchester to surprise him, but when he went towards her, she disappeared. And the next day, he found out that she had died probably around the same time he had seen him. And it's also said that the cathedral and the surrounding area is said to be haunted by a black shuck, which is a demonic hound that predicts death.
Ooh. Now, we don't actually live that far from the centre of Manchester. We may well get to be doing a live episode, bonus episode, Amanda, won't we? Yeah. So, watch your space, maybe not in the future on that one. Now, we've actually got a second guest this month as well, haven't we, Amanda?
We do, yeah.
Yes, this is our friend that lives in the back of us, Keith. Now, I recorded Keith the other week, and he's going to come on now and tell us about his experience at a local house where he had an interesting experience.
Shadows.
Like I said, it's not. I don't think it's all that terrifying or all that of a standout anecdote. But I didn't know that it was haunted until.
Tell us, obviously, first of all, then, when did you go? And
I go to Rockville all the time.
Oh, was that okay? When did this happen then? First of all,
I want to say about 2 years ago. Was it 2 years or was it a year and a half? It was. I want to say it was at some point. It was after all the lockdown bullshit was done.
So yeah, you're looking at some point within the past 18 months, a year, another 18 months.
I would say so. I would think it's. I think it's around then. It's either that or it was either that or before the lockdowns.
Yeah, of course. So
okay. 2019. It was either 2019 or early 2021.
Yeah. So
when the Bolsheviks were done with their reign of terror.
Set the scene then.
So basically, the reason why I'm bringing the story up is because I'd gone in there and I love Victorian buildings. It's a Victorian manor house, and I wanted to go in just to take in the ambiance because it's got those beautiful decorative ceilings, and it's got the brocade, and it's got all the floral hues that are, resident in a Victorian style manor house of its time, and obviously inspired a book of poems that I just wrote. So I mean, I engaged with the place. So I went in there, and then, the stairs. When you go in, there's the council offices on the left. Then you have the staircase, and you go upstairs. There's a ballroom upstairs.
I do, yes.
And then there's the bathrooms. There's like a bit of a foyer. So when you go upstairs, you walk up the stairs, you loop around. There's a landing, and then there's a foyer, and then it goes to a door area where there's two bathrooms in the ballroom. So that little foyer section, that's what we're focusing on. So I'd gone up there or whatever, and I was just walking around, and when I came to that foyer, I don't know how to describe this. Honestly, this is what happened. I felt like something was watching me, and it's a weird thing. Like I feel like the hair was standing up on the back of my neck. So like I sensed that there was something there, and the temperature was cold.
It's common. I've had it before.
I know, and that's why I was thinking to myself, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But the presence itself it wasn't eerie. It was a calming presence. It was a very serene presence.
Yeah, you find this sort of thing, there is two trains of thought. One, you get the hostile and one that's curious almost. Yeah, so
that's what it felt like. Well, like when I was there and I felt it like it was watching me out of curiosity. But like the weirdest thing is like I don't know if people could actually believe this or not, but sometimes you can see it with your mind, the entity.
Yeah, you can do. You can do. A lot of it is this sort of thing. Is like you got to be sort of sensitive. I've seen ghosts.
I've had other experiences with them in the past that I won't even talk about that because that was.
Yeah, we're going another story.
Yeah,
another day.
I don't want to talk about that shit because that shit is the scariest thing. I don't even want. To this day, I won't talk about it.
We'll talk about that story another day. Now, on to your Club experience anyway.
So it was a woman from and obviously this was like maybe that's why I wasn't threatened by it because such a being I'd want to be around. Because that's what I'd want to be around. I'd want to be around a woman like that. But it was a woman from the late 1800s, early 1900s.
But put the context in for Rycross Hall. Oh, yikes! That was built before then, wasn't it? Was it the 1800s?
1840s.
1840s. So you find there's a common trick though. Sort of when you look at buildings that age, there is presences they're almost like signatures or imprints, aren't they? So they can't get left there sometimes. I've heard of that before.
Well, the thing that blew my mind about that whole thing, like obviously since we're talking about it, was that this wasn't contrived in any way. This just fucking happened, right? And I'm sitting there like, and then when I walked past where I thought the entity was the strongest, because you could feel where it's strongest almost, right? You could feel the presence, you could feel its personality almost.
Yeah.
I felt like, it was watching me, and then when my back was to it, I felt like it was watching me. It was just looking at me like, who is that? And there was nothing there, though. I didn't, there was nothing there other than, but what struck me about that situation was that it was chilly there, and the day itself wasn't all that cold.
Yeah, no, it's common, no common. It's still interesting, mind you. You're stepping outside the building, you think there was something not right there, wasn't there? So that's what you do.
I felt like there was someone there. And the thing is that I knew nothing of the history of the building at this point. I just said I was a Victorian house. I want to go walk around. And then apparently when I had gone home, I'd done some research. I was like, is that place haunted? That's what the thought in my head was, is this place haunted? And I go online, I see that there's ghosts apparently in Rycroft Hall. Yeah. And apparently that this is what blew my mind. In that area.
Yeah, I've heard that myself.
In that foyer.
Yeah, there's
a nurse.
A nurse is the one I've read. And it was also there's been a young girl that reputedly fell off the balconies around there as well, so on Christmas Day actually. Well, yeah, the nurse one's the one
if she fell off, she'd have to fall over the top and down, because if she fell down the steps are they're not steep, they're gently sloped.
It's
a large landing.
It's just rumours, isn't it? But I've heard the nurse one before, so that's how that.
There was a nurse.
That's how that, one you've probably seen was probably the nurse.
It was a Victorian era woman, so it could have easily been obviously I know about Victorian, that's where I did my stuff in, but they used to wear just like a smock and a hat. They didn't really, like how nurses nowadays wear full PPE and they have a full ensemble. They didn't have that in the Victorian times. You just had a smock, some sort of designation that, like a white smock and a hat. And if they put a cross on it, maybe that would be like a big to-do.
Yeah. So, have you not been tempted to go back there again since?
I've been back many a times. The thing is this is going to blow someone's mind if anybody ever listens to this. Again, this is very subjective for me, because a woman like that I'd want to be around. Right? That's a woman I'd want to marry. So to me, I'm not threatened by it. Other people might be like, whoa. But with that being said, I've been back there, and I've been in Rycroft Hall 1,000,001 times. There's something there. I can tell you. I know something's there, because when you just walk around the perimeter of the building and you can feel presences. You can feel like there's shit and there's stuff all over that place. I've been up to that foyer again.
Yeah. No, because it's a place I'm going to sit on.
Because the thing is with the foyer is that if you go up on the the thing I try to be careful with when it comes to paranormal stuff is you know, you don't want to let your imagination run wild. So I try to approach with a degree of skepticism and cynicism, to the sense of, well, maybe my mind's fucking with me. Maybe my imagination's playing games. Obviously, that experience, I could not fabricate that because I didn't expect it.
No, of course.
But then, obviously, when I went back after, I said to myself, well, if something happens now when I'm up there again, is that my mind creating it now? Or is that actually, or is that real? I mean...
That's a good, it's a commentary, it's an interesting point of view of that. You're looking at things like, you've had that experience, you go back second time, it's almost like you hyped yourself up.
You're expecting it.
You're expecting it. Subconscious, whoever's conscious. I know, interesting. Yeah, it raises a lot of good points, and it's somewhat I've got to go to in the future. So,
I think is the thing. If you went up there, I've been in that building, and I still feel her there. I mean, I'm not. She's there.
Yeah, there's somebody there. Something I believe.
I mean, I think there's more than one there. To be honest with you, because I think there's a lot of different places of that hall.
Yeah, but it's been there for quite a long period of time. I mean, you've been there for quite a long period in time. There's going to be fragments, isn't there? Like, whatever it is, various points.
The thing that's pertinent to it is that it was a field hospital during World War One.
That's the one I've heard. I've heard that.
So you would expect, with that type of emotionally charged atmosphere, for something to be
a tragedy there. To be like unfinished business. Yeah, I agree completely.
But I mean, the thing is that, you know, like, the craziest thing that's ever happened to me was actually in Marple recently,
which we will come on to another day.
Yeah.
That's the key. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. And the end.
Cloaked in shadows.
Creepy, Amanda, wasn't it then, from Keith?
Yeah, another scary story.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about that one is, it's actually like a sort of like old residential home, and it's in Tameside, not far from where we live. I've been past it, I've not been in it yet, or around it. We're going to go down there later in the spring with Keith, aren't we? So, and maybe another friend or two as well. So you may find yet alive, walking around with a recording yet getting done. And if you hear Amanda scream and run off during the podcast, why is that?
Probably because you've scared me pretending to be a ghost.
Love you too, Amanda. So anyway, guys, get seriously, okay? That's it, the end of this episode, okay? Episode number 2. We should be back. Of course, Amanda, when are we back?
At the beginning of every month.
Take care. Bye.
Cloaked in the shadows.